1994, President Ronald Reagan said the following.
The idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though sometime back they may have entered illegally.
2 years later, President Reagan granted amnesty to nearly 3 million immigrants.
He did it twice.
Something no
He did it
Democrat
twice.
or Republican president has done since. Governor Christie, as governor of a non-border state in 2010, you supported a path to citizenship. But when you ran for president in 2016, you flipped, saying immigrants should be tracked like FedEx packages. Where do you stand now on a path to citizenship for 11 million of undocumented immigrants?
No, I'm gonna let it answer, then I'll say my
No one has done anything since we first had this discussion 13 years ago. We're not in a position to be able to do any of that anymore. What we have to do now is first treat this like the law enforcement problem it is. Our laws are being broken every day at the southern border, every day. And Joe Biden and his crew is doing nothing about enforcing that law.
ICE more
they
than
are letting
Trump.
it go. And by the way, they announced during
He's
the presidential race
security
they
more
were
than
going to let it
Trump.
go. And we need to have a president who acts like I did as governor. Enforce the law.
Close the bridges
first
like
and
you did.
Foremost. And that means what I'll do on day one is sign an executive order to send the National Guard to partner with Customs and Border Patrol to make sure that we stop the flow of fentanyl over the border, but also to make sure that we send a much different message.
That same thing
We
Biden
want
did.
you here in this country to fill the 6 million vacant jobs we have. But
Now I'm gonna say this real quick. I want you guys to understand the neoliberal response to immigration has failed. Pumping money into ICE, border security, in a police state does not work. So when you have Biden comes in, he's funded more than Republicans, and it doesn't work. Trump funded more than Barack Obama. It doesn't work. You guys need a new answer. Like even if you come in and fund ICE more, you're gonna have the same problem because the neoliberal capitalist approach towards immigration does not work. It doesn't matter who's president.
that he was only going to build 52 miles, they might have paid for the 52 miles.
Thank you, Governor.
All right, Governor Haley. Most illegal immigrants are coming from countries south of the border. You've seen the Fox News drone. It's captured the steady stream of people coming into the country on a daily basis. In fact, I believe we have a live picture of it tonight. That is happening right now, live. In the last decade, the U.S. has spent nearly $55 billion to address the root causes of migration. But crime, poverty, and corruption, they persist, and the number of migrants is only growing.
This is a scare white people segment.
Are we wasting our money?
Well, what happens is when Joe Biden waved the green flag, it told everybody to come. And now we've seen 6 million people cross the border. We've had more fentanyl that have killed Americans in the Iraq, Vietnam, or Afghanistan wars combined. We need to make sure that we are a country of laws. The second we stop being a country of laws, we give up everything this country was founded on. So we have to secure the border. The way we do that is, first of all, defund sanctuary cities. You see what's happening in Philadelphia right now. It's got to stop. We need to make sure we put 25,000 more Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. I spent 400 miles down that border, and I'm telling you, Border Patrol agents aren't allowed to do their job. Let's go.
They aren't allowed to kill and torture them, huh,
Instead
Nikki?
of catch and release, let's go to catch and deport.
What about
and
the
let's
aid
make
that what about the aid that federal taxpayers are paying to deal with the root causes? It's not working.
The only aid that we should be spending right now is to secure the border, the southern border, the northern border, period. We need to keep Americans safe. And right now, Americans are not safe. Only when we fix the immigration system, only when we get the border secure, should we ever look at putting any more money into this.
The United States only has this obsession with the border.
It's a clear, we're not doing that. Joe Biden's not doing that.
Indication
and you mentioned Congress and shutting down government.
Country.
I'll make it
Keep
clear.
the Negroes and the brown people the fuck out of here.
In 4 years, in 40 years, Congress has only delivered a budget on time 4 times in 40 years. If they don't keep the government open, they should not get paid. No pay, no budget. That's the way we should be.
For all undocumented immigrants and their children, even if the children are citizens of the United States, under what legal premise will you expel?
What is she there for, Nick? I gotta say this. I was gonna say this. Why are you there? Like it feels like you're out of place. You're asking questions that they don't give a fuck about immigration. They don't care about
Mexico and Central America to end the incentives to come across. But I do go a step further. You're right about that, Ilya. I favor ending birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal immigrants in this country. Now, the left will howl about
that
the
is
Constitution and the
I did not
14th
tell you.
The
person of color always got to be like, oh, white guy, you think you white supremacy? Let me show you some shit, motherfucker. And that's what he's doing.
And subject to the laws and jurisdiction thereof are
Black
citizens.
cops are the worst,
So
remember.
nobody believes that the kid of a Mexican diplomat in this country enjoys birthright citizenship. Not a judge or legal scholar in this country will disagree with me on that. Well, if the kid of a Mexican diplomat doesn't enjoy birthright citizenship, then neither does the kid of an illegal migrant who broke the law to come here. And as the father of two sons, it is hard for me to look them in the eye and say, you have to follow the law when our own government fails to follow its own laws. That's how we really go the distance and solve this problem and restore the rule of law in the United States of America, because that is part of what it even means to be an American.
Senator Scott, you oppose ending birthright citizenship. What does Mr.
Freaking New York has $1 billion freaking budget for police. What are you talking about,
It's certainly written as it relates to slavery, not as it relates to illegal immigration. It's been applied to illegal immigration. So the challenge that we face is, in fact, one that has to do with whether or not the people that come here are under the jurisdiction of our laws. And frankly, if you come here illegally, you are not. Now, surviving a Supreme Court argument is something I can't tell you. But from a perspective of the Constitution, I think it's simple that clearly it was designed for slavery and not for illegal immigration. I'll go one step further, though. When we have a conversation about the things that are happening on this stage, we think about the fact that Vivek just said we were all good people, and I appreciate that, because last debate, he said we were all bought and paid for. And I thought about that for a little while and said, you know, I can't imagine how you could say that knowing that you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party and the same people that funded Hunter Biden millions of dollars was a partner of
Coon goes after Coon. Coon on Coon crime right here. This is some Coon on Coon crime.
These are good people who are tainted by a broken system, and it's not the fault of anybody who's involved. Some of us are tainted. Excuse me. Thank you for speaking while I'm interrupting while I'm speaking.
You said about painful.
If I may finish,
You can't be on both sides.
Gentlemen, you'll have your turn.
One of the challenges
we should focus on the issues that matter. We know we did business in China. Everybody knows that.
If I may address,
focus on holding Joe Biden accountable. That's what we need to be.
I actually agree with Ron DeSantis.
Everybody speaking at the same time. No one can.
I agree with Ron DeSantis on China. When every other CEO expanded into the Chinese market, you know what I did with my first company? We opened a subsidiary in China. But you know what I did that was different than every other company? We got the hell out of there. And when I started my next company, Strive, years ago.
I don't think that's a good moment.
Right when I started my next company, Strive, to compete against BlackRock. Excuse me. To compete against BlackRock, I made a commitment that we would never do business in China. And I will say something.
Yes. I think you have more than time to explain your point.
Well, if I was interrupted by a lot of people here, and I want to be respectful because I believe
you were respectful last debate.
But I do not believe in these. We're sitting here in the Reagan Library.
Yes, I wish you
in
did
the
not
honor of Ronald Reagan's library.
Oh, what a weak cut.
From one admirer of Ronald Reagan to another.
You scared of Tim Scott?
From one admirer of Reagan to another. We cannot
do deals with the
violate
4 years ago.
This isn't productive.
I want to hear about that.
Let's have a policy debate.
What's going on?
Let us have a policy debate.
Let's have about their records.
Let's have a policy debate. And the right answer is we need to declare independence from China, and I will see that through.
Vice President Pence,
Probably a
in
good moment.
2017, the Trump-Pence administration canceled DACA, which put the legal status
I'm gonna say this,
of
Tim Scott, remember how he got
in the
offended
hands
when
of the
Vivek
courts.
said he was bought off?
Dreamers
Tim,
work.
no
and
one
they pay
believes you're
taxes.
not bought off.
As
No one
president,
believes that.
if the Supreme Court ends DACA, would you work with Congress to reach a permanent solution?
You see what I mean? Like, you see, she is obviously asking about immigration to fix it. The Republicans don't want to do that. It feels like she shouldn't be there to ask this question.
So we're nice to have you participating in elections. So let me speak to this. Number one, I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy with the Mexican government. We used economic power to bring the Mexican government to the table. We built hundreds of miles of border wall. And despite what's said here today, we reduced illegal immigration and asylum abuse by 90%. And as President of the United States, I can do it again. And the truth is we need to fix a broken immigration system, and I'll do that as well. But first and foremost, a nation without borders is not a nation. And we have to secure the southern border of the United States of America.
What happened pre-1900 then, Mike Pence? What happened pre-1900? Pre-18? What happened?
One other thing about China.
Would you negotiate with Congress to
Borders are used to control
give
workers,
a solution
not
to the
risky.
problem that Dreamers have right now? They are on a limbo.
Well, let me tell you, I served in Congress for 12 years, although it seemed longer. But, you know, something I've done different than everybody on this stage is I've actually secured reform in Congress. You know, Ron, you talk a really good game about cutting spending, but you've increased spending in Florida
politics
by
is
30%.
ridiculous. What is the purpose of a debate if the people
2006,
debating are allowed
right
not
after
to at
Hurricane
all
Katrina,
address
Dana,
the
you
issue?
remember it. We
Like, how is
stood
this
our
a debate?
ground. I
She
led House
followed up
conservatives.
and
We
said,
cut
hey,
$100
doc a
billion
question. Are you going to
out
answer it?
of
He
the
just
federal
literally
budget.
skips
It
past
can
it.
be done, but
Starts talking
as I
about
said in the
something
last
else.
debate, I'll say again, this is no time for on-the-job training. I'm going to be ready on day one to get Congress to step up, secure the southern border of the United States, build a military fitted to our times, and we're going to get spending in Washington, D.C. under
Thank you, Vice
control
President.
once and for all.
Mexico is the United States' most important trade partner and border security. You say you will send special operations to attack the cartels in Mexico. So
Invading Mexico.
this means boots on the ground, drone strikes.
It means special operations. It's how we deal with our terrorists. And what you need to do is understand that Mexico's
So
not
the
being a
same
good
thing you're
partner
mad
if we
about
lost
Putin doing in
75,000
Ukraine?
Americans last year. Mexico's not being a good partner if they're letting the cartels get away with what they're getting away
the
with.
same thing you're
What
mad
we
at
will do
Putin
is
for
we
doing
will
in
make sure that
Ukraine.
we send in our special operations and we will take out the cartels, we'll take out their operations, we'll take out anything that's doing it. But we're going to go after China because China
She's
is
the
the one
craziest
sending the
person on this
fentanyl in the
debate stage. I
first
want you
place.
guys to
And
understand.
we will
She
end
is.
all normal trade relations until China stops sending fentanyl. And
that's
then
why
we'll do the
Morning Joe's
special
gonna love
operations
her.
and we'll
I
get
bet
it from both sides. This is where President Trump went wrong. He focused on trade with China. He didn't focus on the fact that they were buying up our farmland. He didn't focus on the fact that they were killing Americans. He didn't focus on the
BlackRock
fact that they
and
were
Bill
stealing
Gates is buying
$600
our
billion in
farmland up.
intellectual property. He didn't focus on the fact that they put a spy base off our shores in Cuba. They didn't focus enough on the fact that all of our law
These
enforcement
people are
drones in
fucking-
America are Chinese, and we've got all these little surveillance cells.
so
We need to
fucking
start
crazy.
focusing on what keeps Americans safe. That hasn't happened in a long time. As your president, I will make sure every
Morning Joe
American
is
is
about to
safe, and we'll
love
do
her.
whatever
Oh, they
it
gonna
takes to make
kill her.
that happen.
Vice President Pence, the latest Univision poll found that 73% of Latino voters think the Republican Party doesn't care about or is being hostile toward them, the Hispanic community. Only Governor DeSantis has translated his campaign into Spanish. How will you reach out to Latino voters?
Well, I promise you that we're going to continue to build bridges to every community in this country. And I'm incredibly proud of that tax cut and tax reform bill. I worked on Capitol Hill to help get that bill passed into law, the largest tax cut in American history. We saw literally the lowest unemployment ever recorded for Hispanic Americans, the lowest unemployment ever recorded for African Americans, 50-year low for women. So I think the President of the United States needs to be a champion for the American dream for every American. It begins with the unborn and the aged and the infirm. And it begins with every ethnic group in this country. And I promise you, if I'm President of the United States, I'll be a champion. I'll be a champion for the American dream, for Hispanic Americans and for every American. So help me God.
Senator Scott, reaction?
Yes, there's no doubt that if you lead by example, it's the best way to get the job done. If you look at my office in the Senate, my chief of staff is the only Hispanic female chief of staff in the Senate. I hired her because she was the best, highest qualified person we have. What we need are leaders who lead by example. And I will simply say, I would love to finish my conversation with Nikki as it relates to the job that needs to get done. Nikki offered a 10-cent gas tax increase in South Carolina. Talk about someone who has never seen a federal dollar she doesn't like. 10 cents on the gallon in South Carolina. As the UN ambassador, you literally
Bring it,
put
Tim.
$50,000 on curtains in a $15 million subsidized location. Next.
You got bad information. First of all, I fought the gas tax in South Carolina multiple times against the establishment.
Just go to YouTube.
Against the establishment.
Just go to
and
YouTube
you want
and
to
see
know
it
what
for
that
yourself.
10 cent was? When they wouldn't pass the gas tax, the establishment and the companies wanted me to do it so much that I said the only way I will
Here's
pass
what you
it
have to
if
do.
you will
All
give
you have
us
to do.
three.
All you
excuse
have
me,
to do is go
if you will
watch
give-
Nikki Haley on YouTube.
Yes.
If you will give me 3 times the deduction in income tax, then I will look at your gas
So you
tax,
said
which
yes,
is why it didn't
you would
happen.
pass. Exactly, Ron.
Secondly, on the 50 million.
Here is a nice part.
Secondly, on the curtains, do your
Yes.
homework, Tim, because Obama bought those curtains.
Did you
and
send them back?
It's in the press.
Did you send them back?
It's the State Department.
Did you send them back?
Did you send them back? You're the one that works in Congress.
Oh my gosh.
You get it
You
done.
hung them on your curtains.
They were there before I even showed up at the residence. You are scrapping. You are scrapping.
I'm not scrapping.
Excuse me. You know I fought
Here's a fact.
taxes.
Here's a fact, though.
I cut taxes.
He said
I loaded up our
You wanted a gas tax increase, and then you wanted
We do not intend to go ahead like this. In fact, we're about to take a commercial break.